The New York Giants' most glaring issue is much more than just the offensive line, the quarterback, or the run defense. I'll explain what it is and why coming up next on the Locked on Giants podcast.
You are Locked on Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of the Locked on Giants podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast family, your team every day. I'm your host, Patricia Trainer, credential member of the New York Giants media for Locked on, as well as for New York Giants on SI, which is where you can find all of my written work. And as always, welcome on into our Blue Crew community members, our everydayers, our newcomers, and everybody in between. And thank you so much for spending part of your day with us here on the Locked on Giants podcast. And if you've made us your first listener of the day, we appreciate that as well. Today's episode of Locked on Giants is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you will get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. All right, Giant fans, on today's show, we're going to take a big picture look at what's wrong with the Giants. And basically, it's the foundation. And I'll explain what I mean by that in segment 1. Then in segment 2, we're going to take a little deeper look at the performance of the Giants' offensive line, particularly the interior, which was a big problem for the team on Sunday in the loss to the Washington Commanders. Segment 3, we'll spin ahead and we'll look at the storylines, the emerging storylines for this weekend's game. The Giants visit the Dallas Cowboys, a place that they haven't won since 2016. So it's been a long, long time. We'll look at some of the storylines leading up to that game. So again, welcome on into everybody. All right, Giant fans. So when we look at this New York Giant team, the biggest problem that I see is that there is serious cracks in the foundation of the team. Now, by that I mean, when you think about building a roster, what is at the very core of any NFL roster? The draft, right? Okay, so General Manager Joe Schoen has now had 4 draft classes. And I know it's a little too early to evaluate the 2025 class and the 2024 class, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to take kind of a bigger picture type of perspective here. So with 4 draft classes in the books under Joe Schoen, what I did was I broke it down into starters, backups, and players on other teams. And the numbers, I think they're going to surprise you. All right. So the number of starters over the 4 drafts so far, 10. So that comes out to what? 2 per year, a little over 2 per year. Not good. Backups, 15. So that's your depth, your players who are waiting in the wings. And how many players are not on the team? 6. Okay. So you have 6 draft picks that are not on the Giants, whether they're out of the league, whether they are, with another team, they're not contributing to the Giants. So if you look at it, that's 4 less than the number of starters they currently have. Now let's break this down. 2022, the Giants have 4 starters, 5 backups, 2 who are not on the team, right? 2 players not on the team. 2023, 1 starter, 3 backups, and 3 players who are not on the team. 2024, the best draft class yet under Schoen, 5 players who are starters, 1 who is a backup, and none who are not on the team. This year's class, no starters just yet, although Abdul Carter is knocking on the door. Just a matter of time before he becomes a starter. 6 backups, 1 player who is not on the team. So not a very rosy picture. Now, obviously, by the end of 2025, those numbers will probably change. But still, you look at the other 3 years, not a rosy picture. Now, let's take a look at specific classes, all right? We're going to start with 2022. The big problem, though, has been the premium picks, rounds 1 through 3, and the lack of production they have gotten from these guys. So starting with 2022, Evan Neal, who was a first-round pick, I think at this point we can say he's a bust. Guy didn't even get a game day uniform on Sunday, right? He's trying to convert to guard. Might be a little too late at this point. And it spoke volumes that you had Aaron Stinney and, active for the game. All right. Evan Neal's supposed to be a first-round pick. Hasn't looked like it. It's unfortunate. He's had injury issues, so it hasn't all been his fault, but I think we can safely call him a bust. All right. You also had in 2022, third-round pick Joshua Azudu. Sweetheart of a kid. He's dealt with injuries, it seems like, at least 2 of the last 4 years, I want to say. He's currently on IR. He is yet to be able to crack into the starting lineup. Though, to be fair to the kid, I don't think the coaches have done him any favors by wasting almost 2 years putting him at tackle when he's a guard. But still, you look at the results, they haven't gotten much out of him. Daniel Bellinger, tight end. You know what? I don't understand that one. I don't think Bellinger is a bad tight end. Might not be the most athletic tight end in the room, but you look at, from that first year, he was kind of like the pseudo TE1 for them. Then the next year they traded for Darren Waller. That didn't work out. Then the next year they brought in Theo Johnson. So again, I'm not sure what the issue is with Bellinger. Again, I suspect it's because he's not as athletic, but that's a pick that you would hope to have gotten a little bit more out of. The best value from that class has been Micah McFadden, a 5th-round draft pick. Micah McFadden, unfortunately, looks like he's going to miss most of, if not the entire season, with that foot injury that he suffered on Sunday. From what I understand, he's going to need surgery. So a tough break for Micah McFadden, who is entering a contract year and who actually has been pretty good, quietly, sneaky good, if you will, for the Giants defense, which I'll get to in a little while. All right, 2023, disaster class. All right, Deonte Banks, a guy they traded up 1 spot to get. He's not a full-time starter this year. He actually didn't get the starting job that went to Cordell Flott. All right, Banks has struggled. So that's disappointing. You have Jalen Hyatt, 3rd-round pick, another guy they traded up to get. He's been buried. He was inactive. Well, not inactive. He didn't play, I should say, on Sunday. Right? He was active, but he was one of 2 players that didn't play. And he is, his opportunities just haven't been there. Why? I haven't the foggiest. You look at him in the spring and in the summer and he looks so good. And then all of a sudden, poof, it disappears when you get to the game. You have Eric Gray, running back, who was on PUP. All right. Now, injury is not his fault, but still, you're not getting anything out of that pick. John Michael Schmitz, the center, who was a 2nd-round pick. Has he looked like, a top center at this point? Mm-mm. Why they continue to let him have the starting job and not challenge him for the job, I have no idea. But I've been saying it. I said it last year. I'll say it again now. He needed to be challenged for the job because he's taken baby steps, but he should be a lot further along than where he is right now. And I'm beginning to wonder, is he ever going to be what they thought he could be? All right, 2024, best class, like I said, Malik Neighbors, a slam dunk. Drew Phillips, a slam dunk. Tyler Nubin, I think you could say, is a slam dunk. All right, they have lots of good players on that 2024 class, the best class of the Shane era so far. 2025, to be determined, but I think the big concern here right now, based on what we know, Darius Alexander, 3rd-round pick, didn't get a game day uniform. Thomas Fidone, one of the 2 7th-round picks, did not get a game day uniform. Now, I expected that to be the case for Fedoni. I'll admit I was surprised that that was the case for Alexander. Though, to be fair to the kid, he's probably not getting a uniform because, as I've said before, he started behind the 8 ball, having missed all of the spring. So I'm not giving up on him yet, but bottom line, folks, the foundation of this Giants roster, not exactly set in marble. Got a lot of cracks that are of a concern. So maybe it gets better, maybe it doesn't, but something obviously needs to be worked on. All right, coming up next, Giant fans, we're going to take a look at just how ineffective the offensive line was against the Washington Commanders, so don't go anywhere. Hey, Giant fans, the NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure that you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Hey, Giant fans, when the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. You know, there are some times when you can't wait for days to get that part you need for a project. Well, now you don't have to wait because Supply House has next day delivery. And their part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Join the free Trade Master program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use our promo code SHNFL5 to get 5% off your first order. Again, that promo code is SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to Locked On Giants. I'm your host, Patricia Traina. Coming up tomorrow, we're going to have Crossover Thursday. It's going to be myself and Marcus Mosher, co-host of Locked On Cowboys. We'll give you the biggest storylines, the keys to the game, all that good stuff. So that will be tomorrow's show. And then also tomorrow, we will have another edition of the Giants Squad Show. That is the live stream 1 hour program, which we do at 1 o'clock on a Thursday. It is hosted by Jay Berman. The panel also includes myself, Brandon Olson, who works with me over at New York Giants on SI, and former Giants cornerback Mark Collins. So we will be breaking down all the key storylines, giving you observations, data, all kinds of cool stuff on that live stream. And of course, you're welcome to interact with us. So we hope we will see you there again. That'll be Thursday, 1 o'clock, right here on the Locked On Giants YouTube channel. All right, Giant fans, in this segment, we're going to talk about the Giants offensive line. So just how bad were they on Sunday? The tackles per se, not as horrible as the interior. All right. That being said, there were some struggles. James Hudson at left tackle had an 11.8% pressure rate, according to Pro Football Focus. Not very good. All right. John Michael Schmitz, the center, 3.9% pressure rate, and John Runyon Jr., 5.9% pressure rate. So those were the top three who gave up the most pressures in the passing game. So the biggest issue, though, with the offensive line, like I said, was along the interior. No push whatsoever at the point of attack and at the second level. And in the next segment, I'm going to tell you more about the running game and what the running backs were able to do. The numbers are just going to make you sick because they should have been way better given the talent that was on the field. But this offensive line, here's the thing with the offensive line. We talked about the draft the last segment. The Giants have drafted 5 offensive linemen under this regime. Azudu, Marcus McKiffin, Evan Neal, John Michael Schmitz, and Marcus Bowe. Of those 5, Bowe has potential. Kid looks good. Of course, we need to see him in a regular season game. Schmitz, as I said before, he's progressing at a snail's pace. Doesn't look like necessarily the top-rated center that he was touted as coming out of Minnesota. Neal, like I said, a bust. McKethin's not even on the roster. I don't even know if he's still in the league. Okay, and Azudu just hasn't panned out. And then you go back to the 2024 draft. Giants didn't even draft an offensive lineman. I mean, if you have a position unit that's a problem, why not draft every year at that spot? And here's the problem, the biggest problem of all with the Giants offensive line. They don't have a whole lot of young talent in the hopper. They have had to rely on veterans in free agency. So now you have to spend money on veterans as opposed to developing these young kids because, you can't find guys that have talent or who develop the way you expect them to. And now maybe you have to sacrifice paying for positions at other spots. So it's been a vicious cycle for this offensive line. And look, I fully expect the line will look a little bit better against Dallas because, you can make the argument, oh, they didn't play a whole lot. Actually, they did. All right. In the preseason, they got a lot of snaps. They also worked together in training camp. And before that, during the spring. Will Andrew Thomas make a difference? I think he could, but still the interior's the interior. So the offensive line still very much an issue. And I just don't know where they go from here with that unit. Carmen Brasillo is an excellent offensive line coach, as is James Ferentz. But if you don't have the talent to work with, you can only go so far. And like I said, I don't think the Giants have a solid foundation at that position. You've got Van Roten, who, he's up there in age, which wouldn't be such a big deal if he wasn't, if he didn't have his struggles. You have, a young center who hasn't really taken that quantum leap that you're hoping for. The bright spots on the offensive line, if you think about it, Jermaine Illuminor, who's been solid. They have depth for him if he decides not to sign with the team after this year in Marcus Bowe. But left tackle, is James Hudson a season-long answer if Andrew Thomas can't go? I don't know. I'd rather maybe have a younger guy who you draft and you develop who can be the long-term answer, especially if Andrew Thomas's feet don't hold up. So offensive line, that's been a big problem. But you knew that. You guys knew that. So I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. But the foundation, gosh, I sure hope they figure out a way to fix it because we've been saying this, it seems like every year for the last, I don't know how many years. And the weird thing about this offensive line, when they had Andrew Thomas in the lineup last year, for the first 5 games, they actually didn't look that bad. So I don't know what happened other than, obviously Thomas is not in there because he's still recovering from his foot surgery. But it's just been a long haul with this particular unit. And it's been frustrating because, people say, oh, let's get Jackson Dart in there. You really want Jackson Dart playing behind a shaky offensive line? I don't. But we'll see. It's not my call. It's not your call. It's the coach's call. We'll see what they decide to do. All right, Giant fans, coming up next, we're going to take a look at some of the emerging storylines ahead of the Giants and Dallas Week 2 game that's coming up right after this. Hey, Giant fans, Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. You can make everyday drives feel like something more. From the smooth handling to intuitive controls, the all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence throughout almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, Giant fans, before we get into segment 3, if you're looking to join an exclusive community of Big Blue Faithful where you can discuss the team and receive inside information in a toxic-free environment, then you need to check out the Locked On Giants Blue Crew community. Members get access to our exclusive by invitation only Discord channel where we can talk with one another, ask questions, get breaking news, and so much more. Plus, as part of the Locked On Giants Blue Crew, I text exclusive updates and info directly to your phone, and you can communicate with me via text. Come see what it's all about with a free 14-day trial. If you like it, just pay $4.99 per month. If you don't, cancel before your trial ends and owe absolutely nothing. For more information or to register, visit joinsubtext.com/LockedOnNYGiants. Text and data rates may apply. Please see your carrier's plan for detail. All right, Giant fans, let's get into segment 3. We're going to take a look at some of the emerging storylines ahead of Sunday's game against the Dallas Cowboys. And, I mentioned the first one, I think, earlier in the program, Micah McFadden. Poor kid. I really feel bad for him. He was in a contract year. He was rolling right along. He has a foot injury. He's going to require some surgery. He's going to miss most, if not all, of the season. Bad break. You hope that when we got the report that the x-rays were negative, you hope that he had escaped any kind of serious injury. That worst case, it was a high ankle sprain. And now, that he needs surgery, that suggests that it's something a little bit more serious. So best wishes to Micah McFadden, a really nice guy, hard worker, very underrated, I think, on that defense. Not somebody we think of when we talk about the stars of that defense, but very underrated. And look, I want to just point out just something real quick from the game on Sunday. As bad as the Giants' run defense was, and it was pretty bad, when Micah McFadden was in there, the Giants allowed 5.8 rushing yards per attempt. All right, that's not very good. But when McFadden left the game, the Giants' run defense allowed 7.1 yards per rushing attempt, 2 rushing touchdowns. That's even worse. So, Darius Moiso is going to probably step in and be the starter alongside of Bobby Okereke. Abdul Carter can obviously give them snaps at inside linebacker if they need it. I would imagine they're going to bring Swayze Bozeman up from the practice squad, or who knows, maybe they'll sign somebody off the street. We'll have to see, but just a tough break for Micah McFadden and that Giants run defense. All right, another storyline we'll be watching. Is Andrew Thomas going to be ready? Now, my guess right now is no. I think they will hold Andrew Thomas another week. All right. For Andrew Thomas to play, I think what has to happen is he's going to have to get in. First of all, he's going to have to practice every day because he's missed, he's coming back slowly. So you want to ramp him up, and that's what they've been doing. But I think somewhere along the line, particularly like on Thursday or Friday, you want Andrew Thomas to potentially take his full practice workload. And I think until he does that, we probably won't see him. The next topic I want to talk about is the run game. And I'm talking about the Giants run game. Now, I mentioned how the interior of the offensive line was not very good on Sunday. So I broke down the Giants run game stats. The running backs ran the ball 15 times out of the total of 23 for 30 yards out of the 74 that they gained. That's a 2.0 yards per carry average. Not good. The Giants running backs only forced 2 missed tackles, and they average 0.13 yards before contact, 1.86 yards after contact. Not good, right? You need a little bit more from that run game. And it starts with the offensive line. If the offensive line isn't blowing open holes, that's a problem. So hopefully the Giants' run game is a lot better than it was on Sunday. Going back to the offensive line real quick, I keep mentioning how the interior was bad. Just one stat I'll throw at you. There were 13 pressures, according to Pro Football Focus, that the Giants gave up in week 1. 11 of the 13 came from the interior, the 2 guards and the center. So that's why I say the interior has some work to do. The other storyline I'm going to talk about real quick is Russell Wilson. Now, we know, because Brian Daboll told us on Monday, Russell Wilson is going to be the starter. But here's what I'm wondering. Russell Wilson, yes, he played behind a shaky offensive line and had his struggles, but he wasn't totally innocent in the breakdown, right? There were times when, first off, he ran himself into both of his sacks. And as Dan Orlovsky reported, or tweeted, I should say, but yeah, Russell Wilson, when he was under pressure, eyes went to the ground. You're not going to make plays if your eyes are on the ground and not downfield. So what I'm wondering is if Russell Wilson struggles, will the Giants be quick to remove him from the game for Jackson Dart? I don't think they should, because, now you're forcing Jackson Dart into the lineup, perhaps before he is ready. But I say that could be a possibility because the Giants did have a group of plays for Jackson Dart last week. I would imagine they will still have a group of plays for Jackson Dart this week. And I have always been of the opinion that if the game is a blowout, one way or another, we will see Jackson Dart. Hopefully, if it's a blowout, it means that the Giants are up by at least 2 scores. But that's something to keep an eye on. If Russell Wilson struggles, will Brian Daboll put him on the bench for Jackson Dart? Because you just know Brian Daboll is itching to get Jackson Dart out there. So that's something certainly to keep an eye on. All right, Giant fans, before we say goodbye, thank you for spending part of your day with us here on the Locked On Giants podcast. Or if you made us your first listen of the day, we thank you for that as well. The NFL season is finally here. So for your next listen, get a double dose of the Locked On NFL podcast. Tyler, the Madman Rowland, gives you a shot of espresso to start your football day, while Tony Wiggins takes you into the barbershop for the smoothest breakdown to end the day. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. All right, Giant fans, I will see you tomorrow. Don't forget, crossover Thursday with Marcus Mosher of Locked On Cowboys. Don't forget, also, the squad show, the Giants squad show tomorrow, 1 o'clock. Jay Berman, yours truly, Brandon Olson, and former Giants cornerback Mark Collins coming at you for 1 hour starting at 1 p.m. Eastern here on the YouTube channel. We'll also have the audio replay for our audio listeners. See you then, Giant fans.